company with thousands of employees and over 40 offices around the world. And in those early days, though, it's hard to imagine a world where a company like Facebook didn't have that many resources and didn't have that much money. But I lived it. I can attest there was a time, my first year running marketing at Facebook, my only budget that I had was 1 box of t-shirts. That's it, for a year. And so we had a lot of challenges with our business in the early days, because 10 minutes up the road from us was Google, Yahoo, all these big companies that were offering free sushi and massages and volleyball courts. Why would anyone go work for a little company like Facebook when you could just drive 10 minutes up the road and work for an amazing company like Google? So we decided early on that the advantage that we could have was to have the best company culture in the technology field. We wanted people to feel like no matter how big we grew, that every single person inside Facebook was an entrepreneur, that same kind of entrepreneur in that house. So we started to do these things called hackathons. Now, it's not gonna sound fun to you at all. You're gonna have to extend me some creative license, because I think we all know that entrepreneurs are a little crazy. We're the only people that will work 100 hours a week and then say, what should we do in our free time? We should work more. We're crazy, yes, but I know this. I'm in a room full of amazing entrepreneurs, so we all know this. Woo! Love it. So we would do these things where every month or so, everyone would get together and pull a voluntary all-nighter at the office. But the only rule, you guys, you are not allowed to work on anything that you did during your day job. So you couldn't be on email, you couldn't make a PowerPoint, no. This was 12 hours to work on a dream that you had in the back of your head that you would never normally give yourself the luxury to pursue. I know every single one of us in this room we all have that dream, like if only I had time, I'd write a book, or I'd start that podcast, or I'd do that thing. Well, these hackathons were your time to do it. Most of the projects, I don't want to oversell it, most of the projects were the dumbest things that you've ever seen in your life. One that really stands out to me is this one engineer decided to hook up a trampoline to people's iPhones. So you jump, and then that became your new lock and unlock screen on your iPhone. Do you have any idea how many hours it takes to recreate the same jump to get back into your phone? I think that was maybe the worst invention I've ever seen in my life. People would jump for hours and then still have to leave and go to the Apple store to get back into their phone. But something incredible happens when people are testing out things like that. What happens is that you realize there is nothing you can do to top that, so you might as well just bring it with your most wild and creative ideas. So much of our lives, I think, we spend being worried about what other people think of us. We worry about looking silly or stupid. We worry about failure. And so we go through our lives keeping our best and most creative ideas close to our chest and not sharing it. But in these hackathons, it suddenly became this environment that was free of criticism. No one could look silly or stupid because, let's face it, the dude over there is hooking up an iPhone to a trampoline. There is nothing that you could do to look weirder than that. So you might as well just go for it. And what happens in that environment is suddenly you get these amazing creative ideas that come from all over the company, from people you wouldn't expect and ideas you wouldn't expect, when you give people an environment where they're free to fail and free to take risks. And so at every single one of these hackathons, there would be a few ideas that were so good that we would say, you know what? Now congratulations, that's gonna become a full product on the site. You now lead that team, go. And there was this environment inside Facebook where people felt like a good idea could come from anywhere in the company. It didn't matter who you were, how old you were, what your background was. You didn't have to sit and wait for someone to tell you what to do. You could just wait for the next hackathon and create your dream job inside the organization. So I have 2 hackathon projects I wanted to share with you guys today that I'm particularly proud of. The first, I created an 80s rock band inside of Facebook. Thank you. I know, like, a few of you seem impressed, but the rest of you are like, really? This is like what we're listening to this morning? It's okay. You don't seem that impressed, and you shouldn't be. That's not an impressive thing. In fact, our motto was, we play for free and you get what you pay for. So we're a pretty terrible 80s cover band. All right, maybe you'll be a little more impressed by my next one. I started to get very interested in these smartphones that we were all carrying around, and the fact that every single person in this room is a media company. Every single one of you is now a movie studio, a television network. You are a 24-hour-a-day streaming news channel. We all have that power. And I thought, what if we could give people that power inside of Facebook? What would that look like if we were allowing people to just be their own media streaming company inside of Facebook? I pitched the idea to about 50 big media companies around the world, and I got 50 hard no's. People told me, Randy, there will never be a day when we're watching video inside of Facebook like that. That's right, they said that, and it's okay, because you know what, every time I hear no in life, I just think, well, it's inevitable you're gonna hear no, that just means I'm closer to yes, right? That's right, because you know, it doesn't matter how many no's you hear, you only need one yes, and you know what, and sometimes that yes comes from you. So I decided the next hackathon, I was going to create my vision. I created this little studio. It was really a broom closet, but I pretended it was a studio. And I called it Facebook Live with Randi Zuckerberg.
Thank you!
I really appreciate the applause, because that night, you guys, 2 people watched my mom and dad. That was it. It was, and I got so dejected because I was for sure thinking this was going to be this huge overnight success. And then only my mom and dad watched, so I went home in the middle of the night. I didn't even stay awake to present my idea to the entire company. And I thought, all right, well, Facebook Live is dead. But some of you might even be using Facebook Live right now, so you know it's not dead. So let me tell you, about 3 weeks later, I got a call from Katy Perry's team saying, Randy, Katy Perry saw your Facebook television show and wants to announce her world tour on Facebook Live. Thank you. And I kind of had that insecurity moment that I think that a lot of women feel in business, where you feel like I should apologize and tell them not to do it because it's not a real television show and she should go somewhere else. But then I thought, Randy, what would your male colleagues do? Like, they would make it happen. They would want to meet Katy Perry. They would make it work. And so I mustered up all my courage and I said, you know what? Facebook Live is a very reputable television show, and that is definitely where Katy Perry should launch her world tour. And then I panicked, but luckily there were a lot of engineers who did want to meet Katy Perry and made it happen. So there we go. In 2011, Katy Perry came to Facebook, did the first ever Facebook Live. It was a huge success. We had millions of people tune in. Her tour sold out in minutes. And from there on, it was just this a huge avalanche of people who wanted to be on Facebook Live. Celebrities, sports stars, politicians, people who wanted the chance to talk directly to their fan base without an intermediary. If any of you guys are Pee Wee Herman fans, that was either like a career highlight or a low light for me, depending on what you think. Occasionally, I would throw a bone to a small startup in Silicon Valley. You know, I wanted to share some of my attention with them. And so I had these guys on my show early on. Welcome to Facebook Live. What's the name of your little startup? Twitter. I was like, cool, good luck with that. Well, good job, guys. You did pretty well with that. Congratulations.
Wow.
But I think one of the most exciting moments of my career at Facebook, I was at dinner with my husband, and I actually got to say to him, hold on, honey, the White House is calling, which, I'm sorry, I don't know anyone who that actually happens to except for Olivia Pope and Scandal. But I actually had to leave dinner because President Obama wanted to use Facebook Live to do a town hall to all of the United States. It was, thank you. It was, especially since this happened 4 months after that little broom closet Facebook Live where only my mom and dad watched. 4 months later, the President of the United States was using it. I got nominated for an Emmy Award for that broadcast, you guys. That was so cool. I know, but I lost to Anderson Cooper reporting shirtless from a ditch in Haiti. I know. How can you compete with that? I'm sorry. It's an honor to be nominated. Thank you. But I think the most exciting thing of all of this was just a few years ago, Facebook launched a Facebook Live button on 2 billion profiles around the world. And the reason that is so meaningful to me in this story is because I did not think of myself as an entrepreneur when I moved out to Silicon Valley. I never would have described myself using the words creator or inventor. You know, I think in part of the ways it's a little bit how we fail young girls in society. You know, a lot of people told me as a girl that I could have any job I wanted, but not one person in my life told me I could create any job I wanted. And so I did not think of myself as an entrepreneur. I thought of myself as the marketer who was supporting those guys out in Silicon Valley. And what this showed me, what working on Facebook Live showed me, is that every single one of us, when we're put in the environment where we are free to take risks and free to fail and go after our dreams, every single one of you is sitting on a 2 billion person idea. And you just need to go for it. So here I was in my life, and I was at just the top of my game, you guys. So what did I do? I quit my job! I know, now this is where you're like, wow, we're really listening to a crazy person now. Okay, so why would I do that? Why would I walk away from a company like Facebook that I loved, that was so awesome, at the top of my game? The answer is, it's complicated. So you see, I always had a very complicated relationship with the tech industry and with Silicon Valley. I loved it and I hated it at the same time. I loved being just the energy and the passion of being at a startup like Facebook. What I didn't love was being the only woman in every room I was in for 10 years. And I think, that people ask me my best advice for being a young woman in technology. My best advice is to have a man's name like Randi. I can't tell you how many meetings I got, you guys, because I would email someone and they thought it was a dude. And then I'd show up and they'd be like, oh, where's Randi? And I was like, sucker. So, that's funny and horrifying that today that's still my best advice for being a woman in technology. But, times are changing, which is awesome. I look around this room and there are so many awesome female entrepreneurs in this room. And I think, the more of us that fight, the more we just really inspire future generations to feel like they can have that dream also. And so it's very inspiring to me to look out on this room. I also had a very complicated relationship with the fact that technology, it gives so much access, but I think only to a certain group of people who have the privilege of getting that technology. Here I was in Palo Alto, California, seeing in front of my eyes one of the biggest wealth generation events that our country has ever had, and then you need only drive 7 minutes to get to a neighborhood that does not have Wi-Fi access and can't sustain a supermarket. And that highlights to me just the tremendous digital divide and inequality that we have in this country and across the world, quite frankly. We live in a society where if you are lucky enough to be born in the right zip code, with the right parents, with the right education and access to technology, you can take advantage beyond your wildest dreams of careers that haven't even been invented yet. And if you're unlucky to live in the wrong zip code and live in a place that doesn't have Wi-Fi, like, how could we even pretend that those two groups of children are an equal playing field? So for me, that didn't sit well. That growing digital divide that I was seeing, I felt very complicated about. And I think the final thing I felt very complicated about was sometimes you create things and you have a very idealistic sense of what you're creating, and then when you actually put them out in the real world, people don't use your products that way. So I remember around Arab Spring and a lot of big events with Facebook Live, I remember waking up every morning and thinking, wow, we have given a voice to everyone. And then in the last 2 years, I've had a lot of moments where I've woken up and I've been like, we gave a voice to everyone, yay. And it's complicated. It's complicated because when you create tools, you can't choose who to give them to. You empower both people who want to help society and you empower people who want to hurt society. You empower people you agree with and you empower people you disagree with at the same time. And so it's complicated. But it really started to change a lot of my views of technology because when you're in Silicon Valley, it is very easy to drink the Kool-Aid. Everyone there works in tech, so everyone thinks that tech is 100% amazing all the time. I think I finally lost it when I was at the dentist and he pitched me on an app that he was creating and I was like mouth open, getting cavities like that. I was like, okay, no, this is enough. Not every conversation has to be about tech. But I started thinking about new trends like virtual reality and some of these trends that are going to become bigger in the coming years. This is a photo where I went to this place called VR World. Now, in the experience that I was participating in, it made me feel like I was on the top of a skyscraper being asked to take a step off the edge of the building. Now, I knew that I was on the ground. I knew that I was not going to be falling off this building in real life, but it felt so real, I couldn't do it. I could not take that step. I had to make my husband hold my hand, even though I knew I was standing on the ground. And it started to make me think about, both the wonderful aspects of technology and also the challenges. On one hand, it's going to be so game-changing. The surgeries and the medicine that our children will be able to have because doctors can practice in these complicated VR settings is going to just expand medicine beyond our wildest dreams. The real estate market. I mean, imagine when you can sell someone a house that hasn't even been bought yet because it's not even a plot of land and you can walk them through every detail in VR. Our children are going to be able to travel the world without leaving their chair before they graduate school. So there's so many incredible things. On the other hand, I have 2 boys. Fortnite is a constant discussion in our household, and I think a lot about violent video games, having 2 boys, and I think, wow, are we gonna live in a world where we're treating high school students for PTSD and trauma because they're playing war games that feel so real they think they're in them? So, everything's complicated. Everything that comes with opportunity comes with challenges, and this room, we are the leaders and the people who are thinking about these boundaries in this relationship. Speaking of my children, these are my 2 boys, Asher and Simi. Today is actually Mickey Mouse's 4th birthday, so I'm going to be rushing off to a plane to celebrate his birthday after this. But these boys are just the loves of my life, and they have completely changed the way that I view technology. My older son, one of his friends came over to our house, saw my laptop, and was like, "Grandpa!" And his mom said, "Oh, sorry, we Skype so much he thinks his grandpa lives inside the computer." So that's childhood. Today, we have relationships entirely through screens, and that feels normal. That feels just the way you interact with other humans. My little guy, we were in Whole Foods, and he walked up to a can of soup and went, "Alexa, play Mickey Mouse." And I couldn't even correct him. It was so cute. I was like, I just want to videotape it. And then I realized, well, Amazon bought Whole Foods, so probably a year from now, that can of soup will respond to him when he talks to it. So he's just really ahead of his time. Like, keep going, kid. And it made me think a lot about a lot of the gadgets and new developments and trends that are coming out in a new light. So speaking of Amazon, they've recently filed a lot of patents to deliver boxes via drone, with the goal that you could have anything in 20 minutes. So in some ways, that's awesome. Imagine, like, you guys sell something and your customers get it 20 minutes later, like, via drone is so cool. On the other hand, what could go wrong in a world where there's millions of heavy boxes flying above our heads? Who knows? I was recently back in Silicon Valley last week, and I saw a bunch of the Google self-driving cars on the road. And it always fills me with so much excitement and terror at the same time. Like, I want to pee my pants. I don't even know if I'm afraid or excited or what. But then I turned around, and every single other car on the road was like this. And I was like, oh my gosh, none of those other cars have drivers either. They're not self-driving. So apparently we're at the point where we need technology to save us from our own technology. That is the sad state of all of our lives. And so here we are. Yes, that's right. So I'm excited about a world of self-driving robot cars. What I'm not excited about is the in-between time where it's like half robots and half humans on the road at the same time. I think that's when the problems happen. I know Lady Gaga's in a movie right now. I saw a headline that she wants to do a concert in space. And that's funny enough on its own, but even funnier was comedian Jimmy Fallon weighing in that it's always nice when an artist performs in their hometown. Thank you for that, the sound effect. And don't even get me started, you guys, on Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I think yes, okay, we have some Bitcoin lovers over here. We have people who are like, I don't even know what she's talking about, that's okay. Basically, for the last year in the tech circles, like, that's all people have wanted to talk about is cryptocurrency. In fact, the hype got to such a crazy point that everyone was just name-dropping the word blockchain into everything because that's what you had to do to raise money. It didn't even matter if you understood what that word meant. An iced tea company changed their name to Blockchain Iced Tea, and their stock rose by 300%. They didn't actually do anything with blockchain or cryptocurrency or tech. They simply just changed their name. That's how much the hype and craze was a year ago. And even after the market corrected itself back down, their stock was still trading higher than before they had changed the name, so with the identical product. The last thing I'll leave you with is I saw a meme that rapper 50 Cent should change his name to .00035 Bitcoin to stay relevant with millennials today. Okay, I'm done with the Bitcoin jokes. If you had no idea what I was just talking about for the last minute, you're probably a better human being for it, so don't worry. But one thing I will say, though, about emerging industries like this is that I think especially for women, we spend so much time trying to catch up in fields that are very male-dominated in tech and other industries. And we miss the fact that there are all these opportunities to get in on the ground floor of things. We miss the fact that with things like blockchain and crypto and all these emerging industries, there is no legacy of decades and decades of one gender having a catch-up. So even though I say, haha, Bitcoin, blockchain, I do think I don't want us to be having the same conversation 20 years from now about how we catch up in fields that are emerging today. So I do think it's very important that, especially as women, we educate ourselves and take advantage of these opportunities, for sure. All right, so you guys are all sitting there with your own businesses and you're thinking, how can we leverage some of what Randy's talking about? So I have 4 trends that I really have been spending a lot of time on when I think about what the future consumer wants and what they're thinking about. The first thing is that everything is media. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but we live in a world where every single one of you is a media company, and that is a huge advantage for you to use. Customers today, they really value unique experiences. There's so much content out there that we really have to focus now on how we make things feel very special and unique. We have to think about kind of the different kind of careers that we have, that our customers have, and how we meet the needs of all of these new kinds of careers that are out there. And then a healthy tech balance is what I'll get to at the end. So what do I mean when I say that everything is media? I mean that we live in a world where it used to be that, you worked in B2B, or you sold consumer packaged goods, or you had these jobs, but now on top of the jobs that everyone has, every single one of us is now also a content creator. Every single one of us is a broadcaster, a videographer, a writer, and that can either be scary or it can be something that you really take advantage of. For example, the moment I realized that this was the case was about 10 years ago when Red Bull live streamed a free jump technically from outer space on Facebook. And to that day, everyone had just thought of Red Bull as a beverage that you go in the supermarket and we drank for our hackathons to stay up all night. But it was very obvious from that moment that Red Bull thought of themselves as a media company, that they thought of themselves as streaming live, extreme action sports, and that this was going to be their brand as important as creating their packaged goods. And I think that moment really made a lot of brands wake up and realize the importance of being a media company on top of creating product. Has anyone here tried a Peloton bike? All right, I don't know, yeah, a few people. I tried one. I mean, even our exercise equipment is now a media company, which is so crazy. I recently got a Peloton bike, and I was so excited, but then I pedaled my heart out, and it was like, you are ranked 6,000 out of 6,010 riders. And I was like, okay, great, that's awesome. But the bike has a TV that's on it where you can actually, you're live. You are part of a live class with riders all around the world, which is pretty cool. And so you start to see this world where every product is being created from the viewpoint of thinking that it's a media company. Brands like Coca-Cola have hundreds of millions of followers on their social media accounts. And so it makes me wonder, will we live in a world where other brands are paying Coca-Cola to advertise inside their Facebook page because that's where the eyeballs are? And so it becomes just this weird thing. But Coca-Cola isn't thinking that way. They just launched the selfie bottle. That's right. This was the moment in my life when I felt old when I saw this, because I don't know about you guys, but I have never, not once, had the feeling like of drinking something and being like, I wish I was photographing myself right now. But maybe a lot of people do feel that way, and so good job, Coca-Cola, for taking advantage of that. Sometimes businesses do cross the line when it comes to kind of mixing media and product. For example, I recently saw this bracelet put out by a financial company where if you overspend your budget, you get electric shocked.
That's pretty good.
I mean, like, to be real, I think we all know a few people in our lives who probably should have this device, but that to me really crosses the line. Like, that's really complicated when it comes to media and brands, so maybe don't do that. If you don't know where to begin with sharing content, a great place to begin is with social good, with action. This is like the awesome stuff you guys are doing with the foundation, right? That's an awesome place to start with sharing, and being a media company is just like bragging about the great stuff that you guys are working on in your foundation and your communities and your local communities. So I think, you don't have to be creating, extreme sports content like Red Bull to be a media company. Sometimes it's just about shining a light on other people or your community in a really easy way. A lot of companies are starting now to have in-house creative teams and writers. So even banks now have like full writing teams on their staff, which I thought was pretty amazing, because customers today, they don't want to just buy skin cream or go to an ATM. No, they want to be educated. They want videos. They want content. They are looking to brands today to both entertain them and give them content as well as the products in their lives. And so we need to think that way. The other myth that I want to dispel with content is people always say that things need to be short and snappy and people don't have an attention span. That's not true. So let's dispel that right now. I love Broadway, as I've told you before. There are 2 shows on Broadway right now that are 7 hours long. I have never, ever seen, in like all the years that I've been following theater, a season with 2 shows like that. You can't even see them in one night. You buy tickets on 2 back-to-back evenings and go back to the theater, and those shows are sold out every night. So people have an appetite for long, in-depth, good content. And so we should be scared of that. We shouldn't shy away from that. If it takes you, an hour in a video to give someone a great tutorial and to really talk in depth about something, like, people have an appetite for that as long as it's good. So I don't think we need to be thinking in this world that everything needs to be 5 seconds or 10 seconds. And really also think about how we can leverage other people in our communities who are influencers, because if every single person in this room is a media company, all of your clients and customers are media companies too, and they can help influence their friends and the people around them. The final thing I'll talk about on the media company front is that I think a lot of people underestimate the power of audio. I've been a huge fan of audio. I've had a radio show on air for 4 years now. And people used to be like, oh, that's so old school to have a radio show. But audio is one of the only times that you get people's undivided attention when they're commuting, when they're at the gym, and they're listening. It's very intimate in a way that other media assets are not. So if you are not yet experimenting with podcasts, with audio, that's definitely something that I would try, because it's set to explode in the next few years. Okay, so now that we live in this world where everyone is a media company, suddenly that brings new challenges to our businesses, because it means that you have a lot more content to compete with. In a world where everyone's a media company and there's millions of hours of content, how is anyone listening to what you're saying over what anyone else is saying? So here's where it starts to get really important to think about creating scarcity. These are tactics that have been around in sales forever. We've talked about creating limited time only, or only a few products left. Like, these are tactics that are used in sales extremely well all the time. Now it's time to use that in content, in marketing. That's actually why I love live video, you guys. It's not just because I've dedicated my entire career to it. I love it because live video is a way to create scarcity in content. People feel like if they are not tuned in to that sports event when it's live, that show when it's live, they have missed a moment in culture, and that they will never be able to truly recreate, even if they go back and watch it on their own. So that's why I think we're seeing a huge resurgence in live content, live musicals, live sports. Those things are not suffering, even as other people are watching less and less of other content. I invest in and advise a lot of entrepreneurs. This is Sarah Michelle Gellar from Buffy and Cruel Intentions. She recently launched a company, and one of the pieces of advice I gave her was that every new announcement they have should be done through live video instead of through press releases, and they get just tons more pickup when they do live video than when they just issue things over a written press wire. But now it's not even enough to just use video. You have to really think in this way of creating scarcity around events, parties, marketing programs. Successful businesses have been doing this for a while. A few years ago, I visited the Ice Hotel in Canada, and this is a hotel that is built in January, completely out of ice, and then in April it melts. So if you didn't visit it, you missed your chance to visit that hotel. That exact hotel will never exist again. And opportunities like this are cropping up all over the world. In many cities, you can dine in the sky, hoisted up by a crane. You can have Michelin star dinner in the sky. Okay, if you're scared of heights, maybe that's not your thing, but A gym in the UK, I saw did something really fun. They opened a pop-up cafe where instead of paying with money, you pay by a workout that you have to do to burn off what you just ate. So like this one, the person ordered a pulled pork burger, so now they have to do like a 1-minute plank and 20 burpees and 5 minutes of spinning, and that's how you pay. So no matter what industry you're in, there are all kinds of creative ways to create these kind of scarce and exclusive experiences. Some of them get weird though, okay? In Korea right now, there is a poop cafe.
What?
Where everything, and is designed to be very Instagrammable, but themed. Like your beverages are served in a toilet mug, and so there you go. I never thought I would say that on stage in a business keynote, but there's a time for everything. And there's now a whole rise in retail stores that are not actually stores. There are these experiences designed for people to walk through and take photographs. So this that you're seeing here is called the Museum of Ice Cream. It is not a museum, nor is it really an ice cream store. It is a series of ice cream themed art rooms that people spend $50 to walk through and take selfies in. And I thought this was just a fad, like a silly thing, but there are probably 20 things like this all over the United States right now. I recently saw one called 29 Rooms, which is 29 art rooms, and people are paying a lot of money to go through these kind of unique experiences. So the more that you can start thinking about how do you create that scarcity in your content, in your events and experiences that you throw, the more successful you'll be in this world. So I decided, all right, I'm interested in this trend, and how can I use this to really solve some of the things that I'm seeing around getting more girls into technology and bridging that digital divide. I decided 1 year ago exactly that I was going to launch a pop-up dessert cafe in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I don't know if we have anyone from Chattanooga here with us today. No. All right, well, Chattanooga's awesome. And in this pop-up dessert cafe, everything is run by robots. So we did, and all the food in this cafe could be experimented with and used to learn about technology. When you first walked in, we wired all of this fruit up to be musical instruments and pianos. I wanted to call it Apple Music, and then someone was like, I think that trademark is taken. Oh well. But we wanted to reimagine what does the dining experience of the future look like, where drones deliver your food to you, or you can actually, technology can bring you closer to your family instead of coming in between you guys. We had experiments with liquid nitrogen. We had cereal where you eat it and you breathe smoke out of your nose like a dragon, which is a great photo op. But the most popular by far were our 3D printed chocolate, where you could actually draw something on paper, bring it over to the printer, and get it printed out on top of a graham cracker. And our robots that made pancakes and crepes and all kinds of things. So suddenly, we had this experience where a lot of children and families who maybe wouldn't have signed up for a robotics class or didn't have STEM education in their schools, suddenly this felt exciting and fun and accessible and a way to introduce kids, especially girls, to technology in a way that they could relate to and get excited about. We launched that first little stop in Chattanooga a year ago, and I didn't really know what to expect, but coming from Facebook, I had that mentality of taking risks and trying things. And now we just opened our 9th location of Sue's Tech Kitchen in Chicago just last week, and so we thank you. It's really amazing what happens when you just have the attitude that you're going to go out and try things. I mean, I have never opened a restaurant before. Most of the things I've done in my career, I've been completely unqualified to do and have had no prior experience or background in. But I think if you're the kind of person who's willing to go for it and take risks, that's 99% of the battle in life. So speaking of that, I think a lot of people are thinking about their careers differently. Gone are the days when you had to go to school for something and stay in a career for it your whole lives. In fact, now in our careers, not only do we think about our companies we work for, but we have to think about ourselves as a brand too. Because every single person in this room is a brand, is an individual, unique brand, and you have to be thinking about, am I writing content? Am I being a thought leader? Am I being an expert in my community on the subjects that I know a lot about? It can be exhausting, really, because it's another almost full-time job and on top of the 3 full-time jobs we all already have, but it's also an incredible opportunity to stand out and to really, for very little money, to just really have a huge megaphone with your voice and your business. We also live in a fun world where everyone kind of has a side hustle. It used to be, sometimes side hustles are paid, sometimes they're unpaid, but almost everyone you talk to has kind of something going on the side of what they're working on. So I decided for you guys today, I was going to try to find some of the weirdest side hustles that I could find on the internet. Jordana is a cat wrangler, so if you lose your cat under the sofa or in the closet, you can pay her to coax the cat out for you. That is her side hustle that she does. Wes puts on scuba diving gear and goes and picks up golf balls that have been hit into the lakes at various golf courts. That's his side hustle. And Rob is an underwater pizza delivery person. Apparently, especially in the South Pacific and different regions, there are all these like underwater hotels and they need food delivery people also. You can rent a mourner. That's right. If you feel like you're embarrassed by how few people might attend a loved one's funeral, you can pay people to come and make it look like your loved one is more popular. That's right, there is literally a side hustle for everything, but the worst side hustle that I could find online is the odor judge.
What?
That's correct. Big companies need people to test if their deodorant is accurate, and so they can do that. And so the next time that you feel like you want to complain about anything in your life, like just think that you could be doing that, and you're not. So our lives are looking pretty great right now. The kind of perks that people want from their jobs are so different than when all of us started out. It was all about like 401ks and healthcare. Now it's about wellness, it's about flexibility of our schedule, it's about mental health. These are really things that a lot of people are talking about in companies today, is really how do the companies we work for nurture our full souls and our full selves? And how do they give us opportunities to be entrepreneurial and try new things? I see more and more companies that have in-house incubators and entrepreneur programs to actually train their staff and contractors on how to think like an entrepreneur and actually incentivize people to create startups inside a bigger company. I've also been seeing a huge trend in corporate perks. Again, as we talk about the whole self, companies like Apple, Facebook, Spotify offer, they cover the cost of egg freezing and fertility for a lot of their employees, but my favorite is paternity leave that I've been seeing. Yes, a lot of companies are starting to realize that our four-legged friends are hugely important members of our families and are covering the cost of healthcare for pets and giving people leave when they get a new puppy and they have to train it or so our workforces are really changing all around us. Some companies definitely take it over the limit. I found a company that actually covers the cost of cryopreservation, so they will freeze you so that you can come back to life at some point, I guess. And their phrase was that we care about our employees beyond their legal death. Wow. So sometimes it gets weird, but you know what? Whatever you value, there's a company that's thinking about that. This is a gratuitous photo of my husband, but the reason I share it is because he is the CTO of a 700-person company where every single person works from home. There is not one office anywhere in the world for this company. And I think, in many ways, it's a lot about how all of us work in this room. It's this incredible new world where we're really pioneering how do we toe the line between having those relationships through screens and working on our own in these individual settings while also maintaining that human-to-human impact and empathy and connection. And these are increasingly going to become, the challenges and the opportunities for more and more people. So really, I mean, you guys are really leaders and pioneers in how you run your lives and your businesses that more and more companies are going to start following. Which, yes, woo, pioneering, I love it. But that really leads me to my final message for today, which is in a world where we're all struggling on that line between technology and human connection and devices, how do any of us find that healthy relationship and boundaries between our devices and our life? I know for me, I often feel like my phone is my best friend and my worst enemy. It's the only reason that I can be here with all of you guys today and then, go home for my son's birthday is thanks to a world of technology. On the other hand, I do sometimes feel like our devices come in between us and the people we love a little too much, and it's really hard to find that line. I have personally not found the perfect balance in my own life, so I'm not gonna stand here and preach at anyone. I mean, look at this photo. My younger son is picking his nose, and I couldn't even be bothered to realize it because I was on my phone doing something. So I think we all live in this world where we're so focused on kind of being reachable all the time and there for our customers and available to each other, and sometimes we forget to be available to like the humans we love that are right there in the room with us. So I think a lot of people always ask me, Randi, what's your best advice for children and screen time and tech? But the question they really should be asking me is, what are my rules for myself? Because where do they think my kids are learning a relationship with tech from? They're learning it from watching me and the way I prioritize and the boundaries I set. So I think it's important for all of us to take that good hard look in the mirror with our own relationships with technology. If you don't believe me, just let's look at this video. That's a bear. And that's a guy walking and looking at his phone and not looking where he's going. That's correct. That man almost walked headfirst into a bear because he was buried in his phone text messaging. And so if for no other reason to look up, then, that's a good reason. I have been pitched a lot of apps to either cover on my show, to invest in, to look at, and a lot of them make me think that we really need to unplug as a society. For example, the breakup app. If you cannot be bothered to break up in person with someone you've been in a relationship with, don't worry, an app can do it for you. You just click begin the end, and the app guides you through a whole questionnaire. Why are you breaking up? What did the person do? And then generates a text message that you can send to break up with someone. So that really shows me we need a digital detox. Or how about this next app that has only one use case? This app is called Run Pee. It's when you're in a movie theater and you think, oh my gosh, I really have to pee, but if I get up now, I'm gonna miss the best scene in the movie. So you can open this app and it'll say, oh, you're watching the Avengers, nothing good is going to happen for the next 8 minutes, go pee. That's it, that's the one thing that this app does. And I'll tell you, that's very useful if you're in a movie and you need to pee, but it makes me think, wow, there are probably a lot of very smart, talented engineers that are working on that app. What would happen if instead they worked on problems that were actually problems for people? Like, how much further as humanity would we actually be? But it is a fun app. There's an app for everyone. If you really have problems unplugging, you can download this app called Nothing. This app does what it says, nothing. Just a blank screen on your phone. But what really boggles my mind, you guys, is that this app also has a premium version for $9.99. What would you need a premium version for? I want to meet those people that bought the premium version and just ask them a lot of questions about their life choices and how they make decisions. But because that is crazy. So again, we live in this world where I think we are really struggling with this fine line of loving technology, but just needing some boundaries from it. In fact, there are dozens of hotel chains around the country now that have some sort of a digital detox package where you can pay them to take your laptop away from you when you check in. I don't know about you guys, if I go to a hotel and they don't have Wi-Fi, I'm gonna leave. That's what I'm gonna do. But now they're like, no Wi-Fi, pay extra. Brilliant marketing, honestly, when you think about that. It's awesome. In my own business now, I have a bunch of things I'm working on. Zuckerberg Media is my consulting agency. We recently started doing something called the Zuckerberg Institute, where we host small online master classes and group mentoring. So I'd love to see some of you guys in any of our workshops and classes we're doing. I recently came out with a book called Pick 3 because I know thank you for someone who cheered for the book. Thank you. I do not believe in work-life balance, you guys. I think that's a myth. I believe in being well lopsided instead of being well balanced, because I think when we all think about the things in life we have done that we're proudest of, not one of those things happens when you're well balanced. They happen when you give yourself the permission to just like go for it with your career, or be a great parent, or like train for that marathon, or do whatever that thing is that you've done that you feel like you're gonna tell your great grandkids about at the end of your life. I guarantee it did not happen when you were well balanced. And so my philosophy is called Pick 3. Work, sleep, family, friends, fitness, pick 3. You can pick a different 3 each day. I'm not saying, pick 3 of those and commit to them for life. You can change. But on any given day, we can really only be great at 3 things. And so giving ourselves the permission to do that allows us to live a life that might not feel very balanced in the short run, but actually sets us up to be incredibly balanced in the long run. I have a radio show on Sirius XM every day at lunchtime that I'd love you guys to join me for. It's called Dot Complicated. And so yes, I do get to be in front of a microphone every week, which is great, but I started this all off by saying that my dream as a little girl was to sing on Broadway. And let's be real, I thought that dream was done. I mean, I got rejected from the music major. I went out to pursue this whole career in technology, But you guys have probably forgotten about my dream by now, but I have not forgotten about my dream. And about 2 years ago, I was in my living room and I got a call from the producer of a Broadway musical, Rock of Ages, an 80s rock musical. Yeah, 80s rock. And they were like, Randi, we saw some videos of that 80s rock band you made at Facebook. Remember the one that none of you were impressed by? Well, I guess he was impressed, and so he was like, we are looking for a new kind of a guest star for our Broadway show, a technology personality. And do you want to come star on Broadway? So after all of that, you guys, after giving up on my dream and going out having this wild ride in Silicon Valley and everything else, in my mid-30s, I got to actually go back and sing on Broadway after all in Rock of Ages. And so I thought the only way to end our time here together today is with a song. All right. I hope you like The Little Mermaid. Look at this phone, loaded with apps, Siri and Facebook and Apple Maps. Looking around here, you think, wow, she's got everything. I've got iPhones and Androids for poking. I've got a Fitbit that's truly divine. I've got a BlackBerry. No, I'm joking. But I want to live life more offline. I want to go where the people go. Bookstores, or somewhere that's still existent. There I would meet them, and then we would, what's the word? Talk.